Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Say Report. I am Sejohn, and of course my host companion, Devin Decker, is here with me.
He did it, ladies and gentlemen. That
I
means
did
I
it.
can't make fun of him
I did
for
it.
at least a week.
Oh,
Like that.
you can't see, but I'm high-fiving myself all over the place.
It's weird, right? Sejan does something that he should be proud of. He should be real, like, just excited in that moment, and then he goes and just cuts his own legs out by telling us he's high fiving himself.
Thanks, man.
Ah,
Thank you.
it's what we do here at the Same
No,
Report.
you mean like do things that hurt ourselves, that only hurt ourselves? Yes, it's true. Um, it not made any more evident by just a moment before we started recording. You made yourself cry terribly.
I did make
Uh,
myself cry pretty terribly. I like that we're jumping right into it.
Here we are. We have to pull this band-aid off, my friend.
Yeah, mere seconds before we started recording, in an effort to find something to talk about on this episode of the Say Report, I just went on the internet to see what's what, and found out that Walter Becker, half of Steely Dan, has passed away
Ooh.
today. Well, we're recording on Sunday. You're hearing this on Monday. But he passed away today. He was 67 years old. As of right now, when we're recording, we don't know why he passed, but I do know that he did miss his shows on the east and western coast of America this past year, and he was recovering from something then. So Donald Fagen apparently put up a big tribute that I did not have time to read before we came here to
We
start
came right
recording.
into this.
Um,
But yeah, just go put on a record, guys. Like, listen to some music tonight.
yeah,
Like,
and if you're looking for, I think the Steely Dan experience, it's Asia. It is their sixth record, tip to tail, just musically, thematically. That's the album that you should listen to.
nice.
So it starts with Black Cow, which I think is just one of their best songs. And really, the only reason that you don't hear more about it is because the original master tapes were lost, so they were never
Oh
able to
man,
remaster it.
Jesus.
Because I mean, they're perfectionists. Steely Dan was a couple of perfectionists, something that we'll never be accused of being, Sleegan, though we are
Never.
one hell of a duo. Um, and just because we now know how it goes out, you're the Becker to my Fagin, buddy.
Oh man. I don't know if I like that or not. That's awesome.
Well,
But
no,
yeah,
no,
so
no, yeah. So it is. So go listen to Asia. It's out there. You type it into YouTube, you should be able to listen to the whole thing. It also features like perennial favorites Peg and Deacon Blues, which I think has just some of the best dark sarcasm of any lyrics in any of their songs.
do me a quick favor and spell that for everybody. The
It
name
is
of the album.
AJA.
Yeah, just so that you because you were saying that like everybody was gonna know how to spell it. But no, check
It's
that out.
spelt like the blue-haired girl from Gem and the Holograms spells her names. I feel
Yeah.
like we have a lot of crossover musically
Oh God.
in our fan pool
I
of,
mean,
of people who know Gem and the Holograms.
I had a Gem album when I was growing up, but that that's a whole different thing.
Because you say reporters are truly, truly outrageous.
Well, all right, man. But yeah, we wanted to say, just check that dude out because it's a sad loss. But and we kind of just got hit with it just as we started tonight.
Right. And that
But
and
we should
just
talk.
yeah. And if you have
Yeah.
never listened to Steely Dan, I'm just gonna tell like a brief story. I thought that I hated them. I thought they were a band that I did not like because in high school there was like that cool mysterious guy who did the blues show on the radio station that our high school had, and I assume all high schools have. That
Colleges too. This works for colleges
right?
too.
And he played Bodhisattva by Steely Dan. And while that, like, now as an adult, I can appreciate that song, as a 15-year-old, like, the weird, like, blues show guy playing it, I'm like, this is weird music, right? I don't get it. It doesn't really connect to me on any level. And then, years later, Bodhisattva was in Rock Band 2. And I'm like, I still don't get it, right? This is a
Hey
hard
man,
song.
Harmonix, if they did nothing in this world, they left their stamp on everybody musically. There are people out there that listen to so much music that they never would have considered if it were not for games like the early Guitar Hero and Rock Band. So I get that.
I
I
had
get
an
that for sure.
XKCD come up in my Facebook on this day memories that was a guy talking about music, and then the other guy's like, yeah, but sometimes you just need some Metallica, and is like, who? and then the caption was, when you're found out that all of your musical knowledge is based on Rock Band and Guitar Hero. So it's like, it's weirdly appropriate. So then Bodhisattva, so then again, and it was like years and years later, like removed from Rock Band 2, I was driving to Delaware to go see a backyard wrestling match.
Excellent.
And at the backyard wrestling match, some alcohol was imbibed by me and the other members of the group. Some words and punches were thrown amongst us. So what is a 7-hour drive back home from Delaware was in relative silence until we got to the George Washington Bridge, where, you know, we had been listening to like songs on just like shuffle that entire time. And we get to the Geo Washington, and the driver puts on A Decade of Steely Dan. And I'm like, oh, it's these guys, right? Freaking the Bodhisattva people. Like, I'm just like... And I was
Bodhisattvas.
So I'm like so down on it. Like, I'm like, I don't want to listen to this. But I'm stuck in the car, right? And like, it has been a tense drive anyway. So like, we're all listening. And it's weird because we're all listening, and there's these songs. Like, that album is a great album too. If you don't want to listen to Asia, which is like, might be a little like, that's probably like the advanced course. If you need like a beginner's course on Steely Dan, A Decade of Steely Dan is the perfect entry point.
Oh, well, I mean, and that's always the case with greatest hits albums, right?
Yeah.
Like, jump in on the greatest
hits. But
hits
even then, that greatest hits album is so incredible. I mean, it starts off with a song that was only featured in a movie. And like, that's like you can get it on the movie soundtrack, or you can get it on this album. So we're all listening, and I'm like, and then Bodhisattva comes on, it's the 5th song, and I'm just like, ugh, this and whatever. And then like nothing really connecting for me. And then the 10th song on the album is Reelin' in the Years. Do you know?
Yeah,
you know
man.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I love that song. I just like never knew that it was
Steely Dan.
Like 72. I think it's off of Can't Buy a Thrill, right?
That's an amazing pull. Yes, that's exactly it.
So that comes on, and I love that song, but I never knew that Steely Dan sang it. And then, like, from that moment, I was in. Like, I was just freaking hooked. And especially, it follows up Ricky Don't Lose That Number, which I once saw done at karaoke, and I thought, like, this is the most excruciating experience ever. Steely Dan,
I'm sorry. I can't.
You are
let
terrible.
This go by. I cannot let this go by. Reelin' in the Years is what hooked you. Keep going. Sorry, keep going.
Well, you know what? You know why it hooked me is because, like, I didn't realize. I didn't realize that this song that I liked was this band that for so long I, like, cast aspersions on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's fine. I'm not making fun of you because of the song. Reelin' in the Years. Would it be better if I said reel you in?
Oh, I'm so... Yes, got you. I did not take the bait, Sejohn.
Ha! All right. This is awesome, man. Like, that's like so, what these guys mean.
And then after that, we all like sort of came out of our shells. We all started singing Reelin' in the Years, and it patched everything up. And then the remaining songs on that album are things like Kid Charlemagne, which Kanye sampled, of like all things, just thinking about how it touched music. My Old School, which is just a fantastic tune. The only other one, as far as I know, that made it into a harmonics game. And then Bad Sneakers. And the next day, because of what that trip meant to me, I went to used record shops until I could find a copy of A Decade of Steely Dan.
Yeah, and you know what it is for me about these guys is in terms of music and what they did genre-wise, they're classified as like jazz rock, right? And there's a lot of bands that actually fell into that. I mean, Led Zeppelin fell into that, right? Like jazz rock was a pretty big category because of like how rock music developed both here and over in England. But the thing about Steely Dan for me that I will always think of is they're one of the few bands in that genre. In fact, it's the only band that I can think of right now off the top of my head where they actually fall into the jazz category often. You know what I mean? Like, often when you think of jazz rock, what you're thinking of rock music that just happens to have that jazz influence. But these guys got real weird. So kind of like what you were talking about earlier when you first heard them, how it kind of like freaked you out. That's actually part of what really drew me to these guys.
And that's exactly it. Like, I'm like, oh, if they're able to do this song that I sing along to every time it's on the radio, and I like just never bothered to look up who sang it, I should probably listen with fresh ears.
Mm.
And listening with those fresh ears after buying that album and just destroying it because of how much I listened to it, that's when I went out and bought copies of all their other stuff. So, I mean, up until Gaucho, their newer stuff I never really got as into, but their older stuff, totally. And even Donald Fagen's The Nightfly, that's an album that I have in my car because, like, you never know when you're going to need some Nightfly. I'm going to just be honest with you. So, yeah, it's something that affected me, and I'm really happy that I get to share that story. And the last thing is that when I get to the Geo Washington Bridge, I now always put on that album, if I have the opportunity, and see how far into Connecticut I can get while it plays.
That's amazing.
And my record, my personal best, which just happened like 3 weekends ago, I got all the way to New Haven from the George Washington Bridge.
listening to
the Decade of Steely Dan album.
Nice.
And that's 14 tracks. So, like, do the math. And that's it, yeah. So from the Say Report, with love, Walter Becker, you shall be missed.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, man, you brought like good stuff and heavy stuff to the table, and now here I am wanting to talk about Dick and Fart magazines.
I would also like to point out that you just said I brought good stuff and heavy stuff to the table. I literally found out 5 seconds before I hit record.
I think the thing is what you're doing is you're revealing how it is we actually put this show together.
It's been a lot of, you know what, this whole cycle of episodes has been a lot of behind the curtain stuff. I'm not going to lie to you, but I don't mind it. I like sharing it, and it's like true. So yeah, let's talk about Dick and Fart Joke magazine.
Well, so just I don't know if everybody was aware of what was happening. I know that we've got a lot of friends and family that also listen to the show as well as fans, but I was without a phone this weekend and it was killing me. So I had some shit go down with my phone last week that I was very unhappy about, but I will say this: Google services was really good, because Devin didn't know this, but I'm on a Google phone and I have been for about a year, and I was like I guess like one of the first ones on it. I'm not quite sure how prevalent it is yet, but I know that I basically got a phone for free because Google was like, please test our phone for us out in the middle of nowhere.
So it was like, so yes, I was very surprised when you're like, I have a Google phone. It's a Pixel, right? You're working off a Google Pixel?
It's actually not. It's not a Google. It's not Google's own phone. But what it is it's Google Fi is just was trying to get a foothold out this way, and so they were like basically like throwing phones at people. So it's actually a Nexus. It was a Nexus 5G. So it was a decent phone, a decent sized phone too, like smartphone. And so it died on me, and I was very unhappy because it died on me at like a most inopportune moment, and so like I got in touch with Google, and instantly they were like, yeah, that shouldn't have happened. Here, have a free phone. And they like got it out to me like we're overnighting it, no charge, just here, just take this. And so it got to me yesterday, and I started reinstalling a bunch of stuff, including Twitter. So that's why I hadn't been like doing much on Twitter. It's because I didn't have anything for the last week or so. So I instantly jumped on Twitter and started like, refriending people and trying to make sure that everything was in order. And like, I was like, it's me, I promise it's me. All of a sudden, a lot of like weird stuff that's normally at the bottom of my Twitter feed, was popping up at the top because like it was still trying to figure out what it was that I was like into. And one of the things that I forgot that I had followed like such a long time ago was like Mad Magazine. But what was on it was this amazingly like poignant image, and I was like, this is not adding up. What is happening here? So I clicked on it, and what it is Mad Magazine. Man, did you ever read much of it when you were like a kid, Devin? Do you read much of it now?
So Mad Magazine, as far as my like mental state like recalls, we used to have a library class when I was in elementary school.
Sure. Yeah.
And they had like Mad Magazine Junior in the library. So like in addition to getting a book out every time we had library course, I would also take out a Mad Magazine Junior. And the best part about those is that if you got them fresh, like I would get the trading cards and I would get like the special offers and bonuses. So like I recall that, but I've only ever read as an adult 2 issues of Mad Magazine. I could tell you nothing about what was in those issues, but I know that like they were trusted companions until they fell apart.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I like the so Mad Magazine when we were younger was just like was amazing to get a hold of. I don't like I think there's even like a Simpsons episode about getting a hold of one, right?
Yvonne
Like
Etniage.
yeah. And so we it was something that like I really cherished when I was a kid, but I have just fallen so far away from over the years. And part of it is me growing up and going away from that type of humor, but part of it is also, I'm not gonna lie, the magazine has not kept its reputation up over the past decade or so, shall we say? It's fallen apart a little bit, right? And so like I was so surprised to have this Twitter feed moment where I got to see Mad Magazine and actually be like really impressed by it. What they did was they released a really nice updated image of a cartoon that was in it about 3 years ago at this point, back when they first started talking about the demilitarization or the remilitarization of the police in this country. Like they were like, once Obama's out of office, like what's going to happen now and all this other stuff. And they released this really awesome picture, which was a kind of a spin on the Norman
Norman
Rockwell.
Rockwell.
Yeah, it was a spin on a Norman Rockwell image back in the day, and it features a police officer and an African American kid, right? And that was just a little corner comic in Mad Magazine 3 years ago that got a little bit of legs. It got a few legs because people, just were offended by it and all that sort of stuff, right? But I really liked the image then too. What they did was they just redid that image in a really nice way for a full page joke in, I guess, the latest issue or whatever, and they put it up on Twitter, and it was amazing. And of course, it instantly led to all of this conversation below it about the art and about what it meant and about who, like, and some dude called them out because he was like, "Oh, some guy already did this last year," and then they were like, "No, that dude was actually copying Mad Magazine 2 years before that." Like, it was this awesome like conversation about like how artists have been actually using that work, and then it was just this whole thing, and I was like, and then after a while, you realize it's not even about the magazine anymore. It's all about the stuff that the image was, right? And it was just this really awesome moment of like seeing Mad Magazine being kind of like really important again for a second, and that was really cool. And it got to me, and it got me thinking about all of the comedy magazines I used to read when I was a kid. Like I read Cracked more than I ever read Mad. Did you ever get a hold of a Cracked?
No, I will say that comedy magazines, comedy in general, is not something that I ever really consumed.
Yeah.
My comedy albums pretty much began and ended with Adam Sandler. Basically, they're all going to laugh at you
Yeah.
through to Stan and Judy's Kid.
The ones that everybody bought.
But I have
Yeah.
the second one too. I can't think of the one that it is. The one that has sex and weightlifting on it. The one that has they're all playing basketball. I cannot think of the title of the second one.
I don't know,
Look
man.
what you made me do. Maybe
Because you have
no,
to remember, I
that's
come
Taylor
from the
Swift.
Napster era, so when
Yeah,
it came to listening to Adam Sandler, I wasn't buying albums. I was stealing all of that music. The dude has millions of dollars and makes millions every year, so I don't feel bad telling him I stole some of his CDs. Um, yeah, no, so comedy, that's super interesting because for me, like we couldn't get enough of it, and I know it was more than just me because I would bring my Cracked magazine into school to show off to people, and it would get stolen inevitably by the end of the day, and it happened like 5 times. I never learned. But Cracked was always the one that I got because my dad grew up reading. My dad grew up reading National Lampoons, and I know this because he has boxes of them still, and they're amazing, right? And National Lampoon, like that was what everybody was trying to emulate, right? And it's a fantastic comedy magazine. Like between the satirical articles versus some of the more serious stuff that they actually got into, to straight up at some point they released entire like script pieces of Animal House. Like there was just all sorts of crazy stuff going on in that magazine. And so what they did though was they also were super adults. Like they had a lot of like nudes and all that sort of stuff in them, which is why I suspect why these National Lampoons were hidden in a box in my basement. But I don't know. I
right
found
next
them.
to the Playboys.
So so I I mean they basically were my Playboys for a while, right? Like it was amazing. Well, because the best part about it was like I actually was legit reading some of these for the articles, right? Like there was actually some good stuff going on. Um so, Mad was funny, but it never got nearly as adult as National Lampoon ever did. Cracked was like that older brother. Like I probably shouldn't have had it, but at the same time, it wouldn't have pissed off anybody that I had it. It would have just been one of those things like, oh, a couple more years before you read this, right? Um, And so like Cracked was always the one that I went to because, being a 13-year-old boy, of course I went for the one that I knew I really shouldn't have. So Mad always just that was probably about the time when Mad started to kind of fall apart for me, where it was like I started to get too old for it, right? Like comedy magazines were just huge with all of us though. Like I remember when Pokemon first came out, every different magazine had its own like silly, spoof on it, and I had to read them all. Like I got a hold of the Mad magazine for that one. I got a hold of the Cracked for that one because it was too good. I loved all that stuff. One of the best things I've ever done, and I will never doubt that this is an amazing thing, no matter what you tell me, Devin, is I got a Cracked magazine that came with a fake Harry Potter book cover in it that you could pull out and put on your copy of Harry Potter. And of course, it was like this terrible like toilet humor thing, like Harry Potty and the Sorcerer's like kidney stone or something like it was something terrible like that, right? So I took it out and of course I put it on my copy of Harry Potter, right? Well, what I didn't realize was that my mom has been like my entire life like reading my books, not like sneaking in at night and stealing them, but like so a couple of like months go by and and I see that my mom has the book like on the nightstand with the cover on it still. And I am like horrified because I was like, "Oh no, I've been caught!" And I was like, "Hey, mom, how are you enjoying the book?" And she never realized. To this day, I don't think, because I never took it off, didn't realize that the cover of that book was not Harry Potter. So it still has this fake cover on it. So somewhere in my house there is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Kidney Stone.
Okay. So straight up, that you're like, Devin, don't cast it. This is hilarious. Screw you, son of a bitch. It is that's the fact that they gave you the mock book jacket on its own is not hilarious. Like that's what they were doing at the time. The fact that your mother never put it together, that's comedy gold.
Yeah, so she's still sitting around, probably still reading that book because I love her, but she does read slow.
Sejohn's mom finishing the Harry Potter series 2067.
Not even the series, man. That was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. She only has just now figured out that Voldemort is still possibly alive.
I just want to imagine that you get a phone call at like 3 a.m. and you're like, "Hello, Mom, is everything okay?" And she's like, "Voldemort could still be alive." And you're like, "What? No, because..." She's like, no, I'm in the first book.
Yeah.
And like, I think he's somehow pulling the strings still, CG.
I'm actually, yeah. I'm nice. I'm actually waiting for the day where she calls me because she doesn't quite understand how Tom Riddle is Voldemort.
Dude, it's pretty clear.
I know
that is because it can be rearranged anagram style into "I am Voldemort."
I'm still gonna have to explain.
Thomas Malvo Riddle. Why do I know his middle name?
Spoiler alert, I guess, for Harry Potter nerds.
Actually, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, listeners of the show, let us all rejoice. Officially, you no longer need to say spoiler alert when discussing the Harry Potter books or films or the like.
Oh, is that true?
Yep. And do you want to know why, Sejohn?
Why?
It's because September 1st, 2017 is the day 19 years later where Ginny and Harry and Ron and Hermione send their children off to Hogwarts for the first time. And I'm sorry, but like once a piece of media has caught up with real time, then you can talk about it as much as you fucking want.
There you go.
Which is why, like, you should never get upset if somebody ruins for you that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. Because that happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I know it looks futuristic, but it's the past.
That's the thing that's mind-blowing about the Star Wars series. It's actually all about the Big Bang. You watch, they're going to blow that Death Star up in Episode 9, and the whole universe is going to have to go, and then all of a sudden it's just going to turn into a series of unfortunate events, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I want it to become the Big Bang Theory. Yep. Episode 9, right? Like collapse, Big Bang, Sheldon Cooper's head.
Oh no!
Talk about tie-in.
It needs to be a la like it needs to be like a la the end of I was gonna say Matthew Broderick's Day Off, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I gotta tell you,
he's in the robe and he's just like, what are you still doing here?
I have to tell you, if Matthew Broderick, like he's Matthew Broderick, so he doesn't need to do this, right? But if
Right.
he were gonna have a reality TV show, you name it Matthew Broderick's Day Off. I'm not a reality TV guy. I'm watching every friggin' episode.
Oh my god! No, that'll be the name of his like come to Jesus movie that he does, like JCVD, you know, where he like really acts his heart out, just basically playing himself. Or speaking of Adam Sandler, like Funny People, yeah.
Ugh. We were having a good time, then you had to bring up Funny People. Every conversation since 2007.
Oh man.
Yeah. So we can officially talk about the Harry Potter movies and books and all of that literature and such without fear of spoiling, because when the kids themselves are grown up enough to go to Hogwarts, you've really had all the time in the world.
You ever think that there's an eventual reset on the we can talk about this though, because at some point you get enough people born into the world that rediscover something? Like, are those guys like SOL when it comes to spoilers, or what?
So I feel like, yes, you really are kind of SOL when it comes to spoilers. But the reason for it is because of the reboot, remake, reset nature of cinema itself.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, let's pretend for a second that instead of getting episodes 7, 8, and 9, or even episodes 1, 2, 3 of Star Wars, instead of them being re-released in 1994 as the original films with like the slight changes and modifications, if those were a complete reset of the Star Wars universe, like you and I, and people our age, our generation, we would know that, right? The spoiler from the original 81. No, sorry.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're having a spoilers don't matter conversation, which I like. Like I like that idea that like you don't have the benefit of that anymore, right? Like, but you can still enjoy it. It can still be good, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm weird with spoilers. I don't want to ever have anything spoiled for me personally, and I understand that. And luckily, like if something is spoiled for me, I know my cocoon cycle, so that like I need to like shut myself off from that knowledge so that it will still be fresh and new. Yeah. If I've not seen the movie yet, once I've seen the movie, as soon as I start watching the movie, the memories will come flooding right back. But like if you were to tell me something about, I don't know, The Usual Suspects, I know how long I need to put myself into stasis so that that knowledge does not affect me.
Nice. Yeah. I like, and I'm definitely in the wheelhouse of spoilers don't matter, but I appreciate anybody that doesn't want something ruined for them. You know what I mean? Like, I personally don't give a crap about the spoiler stuff. Like, sometimes there's things that I want to keep to myself just because I like the surprise, but it's not like I feel like it's going to make the movie. It's not like I think the movie's going to suck now that I know that. It's just that I wanted that moment of reveal. Like that's the thing that I care about. So when somebody says no, I care about spoilers, I give that to them because like I totally understand because I have some of that in me. But overall, I don't mind knowing like the story of something, and a lot of that comes from like kind of what you're talking about, the idea that a lot of what we see nowadays we kind of already have a reference point for, right? Whether it's a remake of something we already know or a reimagining of something we already know, we already kind of know something about every movie we go to see. And even if it's an original thing nowadays, there's so much pre-marketing nonsense that you get from movies, even if you're not trying, that you have at least seen 2 trailers of this thing, right? So you have a preconceived notion of what it is. So like there's this whole idea that like we already kind of go in with an idea of what the movie is no matter what. Why does it matter to me if I have more solid evidence of that just because I actually know something about the movie, right?
At this point, I see 2 roads before me. And really, the person who gets to choose whether I turn to page 74 or 123 is Sejohn.
I love Choose Your Own Adventure podcasting.
So, Sejohn, if we turn to page 74, I will go off more on my own personal beliefs about spoilers. If we go to 123, I will tell a delightful story. It's quite enchanting, involving you and I and preconceived notions in film.
Oh, okay. We're going for that. The thing is, the spoiler conversation is one I actually like having, and so I'm surprised it's taken us this long to get to it. So we'll come back to that eventually. But no, we should totally talk about the idea of preconceived notions in film.
So let us take you back to 2007, right? Because 2007 seems to just
Yeah,
be
yeah, that just
the
seems to be your.
reference point
It's
of
the
this episode.
1986 of our lives, man. Like that's what it is.
Yeah, perfect. So 2007, and there's a film coming out, and people are freaking out about this movie, and that movie is Enchanted. It stars Amy Adams, who is relatively unknown at this point. I think
And
the only other
McDreamy, the
and
important one.
and McDreamy and Adina Menzel is in this movie,
Well, yeah,
and
but
Not Jason Marsden, the guy Cyclops. What's his name?
James Marsden.
James Marsden. I said Jason. That's wrong. And it also features, because of the conversation we were having earlier, the guy who plays Wormtail in the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, that it does. Yeah, it does.
And is
Oh, in the Susan Sarandon, right? No.
exactly like
Yeah.
it is a hell of a cast, the film
Star-studded.
Enchanted. And 2007 still, and a big thank you to Sejohn for this. If I'm not thanking you for this, I should be. At any moment of the day, right? You just remind me that 2007 was the year you got me back into the cinema to go see movies.
Yeah.
Because it was you, buddy. It was all you.
Yeah, because we were going to 2 movies a week at that point, right?
Yeah, we were doing double features all the time. And like, just to like frame of reference, and if we've done this, I've referenced it before, I'm sorry, but like literally you need to understand that the 2 movies that Sejohn took me to that made me realize, I should be going to the cinema more, was Fantastic Four, The Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Ocean's 13. Yeah, it's like Cheap Tuesday, man. We're doing a double feature. We're seeing these 2 movies, and I'm just like, wow. Like, Ocean's 12 was garbage, and it remains garbage to this day. So I'm like, oh, bad sequel to, like, a bad movie, and the bad sequel to the bad movie. Yeah, I'm free, whatever. So...
Excellent.
So then we go and we just see so many movies together that year. Ratatouille, I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, Stardust, Hairspray. The list goes on and on and on. And a trailer that we continue to see
For all of them.
before almost every single movie that we saw.
Yeah.
Was for Enchanted, right? And we've already told you about the star-studded cast. And if you're not familiar with the plot of Enchanted, Amy Adams is a fairy tale princess, and in order to stop her from marrying her son, Susan Sarandon's evil witch character banishes her to a world without happy endings, which... Spoilers! That's our world! Because our world doesn't have happy endings.
Yeah.
Our world, Donald Trump becomes president.
Yeah, and it literally in the film goes from this beautiful Disney animation, hand-drawn animation style to literally the real world. So it's almost a Roger Rabbit-esque style move.
Yeah, and not just any real world. It's not like rural Iowa. It's Manhattan in 2007. You know, not to cast aspersions, right? But if you want to like talk about,
so it's a Disney princess film set in 2007 Manhattan.
Yeah, and it's great. And you got McDreamy at the height of his popularity. I swear, I'll think of it. Patrick Dempsey.
Patrick Dempsey. Yeah, I didn't know you were looking for it.
I did. I really wasn't looking. And like the thing that I really love is that the 3 women who do the voices of Belle, Jasmine, and Ariel all have great little cameos in the movie too. Like this was the love letter to Disney fans that Disney fans had been asking for a real long time.
Yeah, Enchanted's a phenomenal film. Like this is nothing against Enchanted, this story at all.
No. It's a movie that like when I eventually started to work at Hollywood Video, I would always work on Tuesdays, and that would bum me out because I wasn't going to see cheap movies anymore. But the way that we combated that is every Tuesday we watched Enchanted followed by The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
And we had people who like
Excellent
came in on
pairing.
Tuesdays, and it's like, yeah, it's new movie day, so of course people are coming in. But there are people who are like, I brave it because I love the movies you guys are watching, and I don't care that it's always these two movies. You are having so much fun because they're on. So, just stories. So the plot of Enchanted then becomes that fairy princess Amy Adams runs into Patrick Dempsey, and then is soon followed by the love of her life, James Marsden. So, and the film, like, based on the trailers, they have to get back to their fairy tale world, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, I don't know. They don't really tell
There's
you
like
why.
there's like a curse of some kind, and that if they don't go back together to be married, something's going to happen, like the whole world's going to end or something. So they have to get back to the world together is the plot line, right? Like these two
No, that is
larger than life characters need to go back. Sorry.
Spoilers. That is not the plot line. That is the plot line that Sejohn built in his own mind and still holds on to with impunity 10 years later. Because we saw that trailer oh so many times, and his belief was Patrick Dempsey, as like regular human real world schlub, would need to find a way to send these two back to their world so they could wind up happily ever after.
He was going to be the goofy best friend. It's Disney, so he can't be the gay best friend, but he could be the dorky best friend, and that's what he was going to be.
Every time I saw this same trailer, I was convinced that Amy Adams would wind up with Patrick Dempsey. Like, she would find out that, like, maybe it's not a happy ending, but, like, she gets to be independent and live as a modern woman if she stays in Manhattan. And like, so, like, this debate that we're literally still having 10 years later, despite we could right now go and settle it, and we have settled it because we saw the movie together the day that it came out. Every time the trailer played, Sejohn and I would fight about what the movie was going to be about.
I swear that movie was supposed to be about the two of them getting back to that world. And then what happened is they went and they cast pretty boy Patrick Dempsey in the damn movie, and they were like, well, no, she needs to end up with Patrick Dempsey. And Patrick Dempsey's like, I'm not playing the cartoon fellow. Like, you're not getting me to do that. So he's like, I'm real world dude. But then they're like, well, okay.
Better movie overall because of it. I think the movie shined as a result of this change. And then, like, even better, like even better than that is the fact that Idina Menzel, who is like Patrick Dempsey's girlfriend, fiance
or something. Yeah.
But she doesn't like kids because Patrick Dempsey is a single father, right?
Yeah.
But she's like nervous about having a daughter all of a sudden. Once Patrick Dempsey is married to Amy Adams, she follows James Marsden back to the fantasy world and marries him.
Okay, so here's the thing. If they had ever showed Idina Menzel really in the preview in any strong way, then I could have gone with that theory from the get-go. But without having seen the movie and not knowing about the existence of Idina Menzel, the only thought in my head was, but James Marsden looks like he's such a good dude. They can't just leave him. So I was convinced that they were not going to leave James Marsden hanging. That proved to be true.
Well, I mean, yeah, that is true. They didn't leave him hanging. I remember, like as much as I avoid spoilers, Mike Pollicare, of all people, saw the movie before we had seen it, and he's like, dude, like, I'm like, is this what happens? Like, and I asked him, like, straight up, I'm like, does Amy Adams wind up with Patrick Dempsey? I don't give a fuck. I know I'm seeing the movie, but, like, I need to know. Because eventually, Sejohn and I, with this whole Enchanted talk, it evolved into a bet with like $80 on the line as to what the plot of Enchanted would be. And I don't even care. Like, it's just too beautiful. And he's like, no, that's definitely what happens. I mean, you saw the trailers, right? So first of all, Sejohn, you were wrong. Your interpretation of events were always wrong. Second, he then follows up and he goes, and then, like, Idina Menzel, like, I guess James Marsden in a fictional realm, that's pretty good That's a pretty good consolation prize. I get to be a freaking princess? Sign me up.
Oh God.
I don't know why we... Oh, about spoilers. And trailers, and how trailers give you a preconceived notion for the film. Sometimes, and these are my favorite moments, because ever since high school, I have been a real firm believer that trailers are meant to be watched in the movie theater. Like, it's not something that, like, you should watch on YouTube, and it's certainly not something that you should watch over and over and over again.
Okay. I disagree, but okay.
Well, this is just how I feel. Sorry, I just from Dale got handed a sheet of loose leaf paper that had the 2 songs that Amy Adams sings in Enchanted in it. So I'm a little distracted. Yes. Right. But I don't think that, like, I have an analytical mind, so if I watch trailers over and over again, I feel like I would spoil the film for me.
Yeah.
And even then, like, the amount of times that I go and see movies, I see trailers a good amount, right? And I think the worst one was I had avoided a trailer for Wonder Woman until Wonder Woman came out. And then the day before I saw Wonder Woman, my mother and I went to go see Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Okay.
Wonder Woman trailer. And I'm just like, no! And she threw her jacket over my head so I wouldn't have it ruined for me.
Nice.
Like, that's teamwork.
That's love is what that is.
That's what that
man.
is. That was nice. That was nice of my mom. But it is... So when I have this preconceived notion for a film, the thing that makes it much better for me is when it's wrong, right? Because then I'm like, oh, I was totally off base on what this film was going to be. It's like The Orphanage, right? Also 2007. Yeah. I just thought it was going to be like Pan's Labyrinth, but with like a bunch of kids. And then it turned out to be like weird slant Peter Pan remake that is like still one of my favorite films ever.
Yeah.
Watch The Orphanage, right? Like, gosh, darn it. But yeah, so that's just where I lie with that. And I mean, brief thing on spoilers. I don't think that you should talk about events in a film within the first 2 weeks that it was released without giving a spoiler warning. I think that's only fair.
Okay.
But then after that, pretty much all bets are off, right? Like, if you really wanted to see this movie, if you're so insane about this film that you're going to freak out because you hear something about it, then you should have seen it already, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't be like, I'm so excited to see that movie, but I'll wait. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, in waiting, maybe you're going to hear that Han Solo buys a flower shop and retires to a primitive Earth.
And then he starts this world. See, I told you it all connected.
It all connects.
Yep.
I mean, that's what I got from the Force Awakens trailer. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh.
That's just what I think's going to happen in the film.
Oh, Devin, don't call me in the middle of the night to talk to me about it.
I love it. I love everything about it. And to go back to an even earlier topic, first of all, the other Adam Sandler album that I owned was What the Hell Happened to Me? And, you know, just to cover it, so you're not in Rhode Island, and I don't know how much it meant to you even when you were in Rhode Island, but 95.5 WBRU is no longer an over-the-air station.
Oh, my God. What?
Yeah, did you not know this?
No, I did not know this.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to have you here and find out this way. Hold on. Sorry, I just need to get real comfortable before I dash your dreams.
Oh, God. No, 95 BRU was like the Brew Crew. What are they doing?
So it still exists online, right? You can still go to WBRU.com.
And that's the thing is I actually, every now and then I get the inkling and I actually do check in on I just assumed I was listening to the radio station.
Well, but dude, the radio station came to an end the same day that Harry Potter spoilers died. At 11:59 p.m. on Thursday, August 31st, it switched over to what now lives at 95.5, which is K-Love, a Christian rock station.
Oh, ouch.
So basically, like, the license for that call was like $1.5 million a year.
Okay.
And they just they couldn't afford it anymore. And I don't know. Like, you want to talk about WBRU? I checked out a long time ago when I heard a news report that was just the most unprofessional thing ever. And like I said, I did radio when I was younger. So like
Hmm.
I have a standard that I'm looking for, and I think it's great. Like, colleges should have radio stations, but like also if you're going to be given a bright new shiny toy, you need to take care of it. And I find it hard to believe that those two people who read that story were ever talked to by a program director.
Yeah, yeah. So anybody that doesn't know, BRU was and still kind of mostly is, I guess, Brown University's radio station.
That is
Ivy
true. Yeah.
League.
Ivy League, yes. And so they announced like about a week ago that they'd be going off on August 31st, and people like all the people started crying on social media, like it's so sad that they're seeing their go. Like, I'm unreasonably upset about this, and I get it, right? Like, even though I didn't have the same connection with them after I heard that like really bad thing, there were times where I'd still put on like the retro lunch because I wanted to hear stuff
Hmm.
from when I was younger. And I mean, I listened to it all Thursday, and
Yeah.
like, it's sad that one of the thoughts in my mind, as much as like, oh, it's kind of sad to see that this music's going to go, is like, I can totally see why this music is going to go, right? Like, you guys have, you need to have a level of professionalism if you're going to be spending that much on something. And if you're, I mean, like, I don't know, they've been around for 50 years, right?
Yeah.
Like that's an establishment that I feel like you want to wear that with honor and pride, and I feel like they just didn't do that, or they stopped doing it.
It's those damn Brown University kids, man. You can't give them anything. They just ruin everything. Ruin downtown Providence. Ruin my radio station.
But the whole talk of them switching over to this Christian rock thing, I stumbled across a Facebook comment that was, "Do you really think this is going to happen?" And someone commented on that. Yes, they had announced like a year ago that they were in financial troubles and were probably going to have to sell. And we were all sad a year ago. And then they announced like 2 weeks ago that this is really happening. So yeah, I believe that it's happening, right? And the response from the initial person was, I don't know, it just kind of reminds me of the plot line of Airheads. Airheads, of course, being the 1994
Brendan
film
Fraser
starring
classic.
Adam Sandler, Steve Buscemi, and our boy Brenny Frage.
The Sarah Port's own.
Oh, I'd love that, right? One day,
Yeah.
Brendan, one day. So I usually don't get involved in these sort of things on the internet. I'll be completely honest with you. But I
Oh
see
man.
that, and my comment, I couldn't not comment, and my comment was very succinct and not too, like, insultory, is that I think you need to watch Airheads again. Because
That's not at all the plotline for
that's not
Airheads
the plot of Airheads.
at
And
all.
she responded. She goes, "I know everything about Airheads. I'm referring to the plot line of the radio is going to be switching formats." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not getting involved in this, right? Getting involved in a fight on the internet is a foolish thing, right?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "But here's the issue: is in this moment, I'm like, oh my god, do I misremember Airheads? Like, am I? And ought I to be the one offending?" So on Thursday, I watched Airheads again because I haven't watched it in all of our talk about Brendan Fraser History Month and like just movies that we love that he is in. I haven't rewatched Airheads in a long time. Like, I want to say like 2010 was the last time I saw the film start to finish.
Mhm.
And it definitely is something that is revealed in the movie, but to call it the plot of the film is way off base.
Yeah, no, in fact, isn't it hidden from most of the people working there? Isn't it like a reveal to them that they're getting sold?
Like, so the plot of the film Airheads, if you haven't seen it, it happens in 1994, so, I guess the spoiler tag is removed.
Nice.
I was proud of it, I'm sorry.
No,
Uh,
it's perfect.
Is the band The Lone Rangers, featuring Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and Adam Sandler on drums, they're trying to get sold, but they don't want a gimmick, right? Like, it's a real weird movie. Like, you should definitely rewatch Airheads because, like, people complain about the music industry today, and, like, the same complaints are registered in a 1994 film about the music industry.
Yeah,
That,
yeah.
like, everything is gimmicks. There's no real talent anymore. And that's like a huge, that's like the real plot of it is like this like real deep look at like the world of music and how we're losing it.
Yeah.
And so when they can't get they can't play their record unsolicited to a record company, right? So they're like, well, what do we do? We just gotta like get on the radio. So Steve Buscemi's character works in a toy store, and he is given all of the old squirt guns that don't have orange plastic safety caps because they're just gonna throw them away. So he takes those.
So he takes the realistic-looking squirt guns. They fill them with hot sauce.
They fill it with specifically pepper sauce, which is something I love because like, that's official pepper sauce. Squirted in the eyes.
Oh, Steve Buscemi! Oh my god! Yes,
so,
and they take over this. They take over this radio station.
Well, they go to the radio station, and at first they're not. That's not their plan, right? They just want to break in and be like, "Will you play our tape on the air?" And Ian, the DJ, played by Joe Mantegna, he is like, "Well, let's turn this into an open forum about like what's wrong with music today." And they have like this really poignant conversation. Like, I feel like Airheads is just written off as stupid because you have the caveman from frickin' Encino Man. You have Adam Sandler, and you have that guy who like hasn't made himself like Oscar viable until Fargo a year later. Right. So it's like people like sort of write it off, but like it's a real poignant look at like art and like what art is and what selling out is in the modern world. Right. And then Ian, who is played by not Ian, I don't remember his name, Stewart maybe. It's Michael McKean, right? I love Michael McKean. I'm just gonna put that on record.
It's basically the entire like background cast of The Simpsons. Like,
yeah, it really is. And also Kramer's there. Michael Richards is there as like bargain basement John McClane.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's all this crazy stuff going on, and then when Steve Buscemi is called Avenue Hollywood Boulevard Trash, he pulls out one of the guns, and things escalate from there. But to say that, and one of the reveals is they're going through like the swag that the radio station has, and they find this box full of Kenny G records, and at the very bottom is like the literature to change the whole format of the station over. And Michael McKean, who's the program director, he's like keeping it a secret. And all of these people who are like currently being held hostage, they're going to be fired in 2 days' time when that happens. So it's like one of those things where like the Stockholm syndrome is sort of accelerated because they should have no loyalty to their radio station. Right. Yeah. Because they're all, this is like, we have no tomorrow, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely like a catalyst and it's a plot point, but to say that the plot of Airheads is that like the plot of Airheads would be that if they announce that they're switching over the format to soft jazz and easy listening, and the reaction of the three guys who are like metalheads is to go take over the radio station and force them to still be like a rock and roll radio station. Then that's the plot of Airheads.
So the lesson of the day is the people on the internet are dumb.
Well, I mean, that should be the lesson of every day. Honestly, every day when you wake up, you should first thank whatever deity, even if it's just yourself, for the fact that you have woken up and that you are alive to experience a new day on this planet. And then you should remember that the people on the internet are awful, terrible people. And anything that you see or read on there needs to be fact-checked into absurdity. Because, like, I'm a little bit nervous to tie it all together that Walter Beck might not have actually died. And that we gave this beautiful, poignant speech for him. But the fact that Donald Fagen, like, wrote a tribute to him, unless it's, like, the world's most miscalculated publicity stunt, like, a powerful force of creativity in this world we have lost. But it's one of those things that, like, because I saw it on the internet, it really was like, I don't even know if this is true. And we
Right.
went to press with it. Like,
Right. And there's like that whole like moment of doubt now that, maybe there should have always been. I don't know. I don't know. But it's
I mean,
there.
there should have always been that moment of doubt, but it's just, speaking into what you said, is like, do spoilers still exist? Does something like gain your respect about not being spoiled again because of new people who've never experienced it? Those same people who have grown up with only the internet as their source of information, people who didn't have library class on Thursdays in elementary school,
Right.
like, they have been taught that the internet is infallible. And that is why we're sort of in the situation that we're in today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it even ties into the fact that someone called out Mad Magazine for ripping off themselves because they had been ripped off. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of amazing. Yeah, man. That was a very nice wrap up. I'm applauding that, but it's a golf clap, so you can't hear it.
no, that's completely understandable.
Yeah.
And it's a shame
Yeah.
because before I found out about Becker's passing, what I wanted to start this episode with was Zach Dyer from Board with Friends was at my house on Friday. We talked, we hung out, we played some board games, and he said, "I'm a little tired of you guys making fun of me on the show." And I'm like,
So here we go, Zach.
so I'm like, "Oh, but Zach, I'm so sorry. I don't want anyone to ever feel that way or anything like that." And I'm like, "So I promise we're going to try to curb that, and like, I'm not going to give you like an official apology at the beginning of the show or anything like that, but like,
making a terrible impression of him. But anyway.
I'm not trying to. I'm talking to him. I was trying to backpedal away from like him being in my house and being like, I feel like you guys are targeting me. Knock it off."
Knock it off.
So the day goes on and everything like that, and he goes, "All right, cool. And we're going to be recording the 32nd episode this month of Board with Friends." And I just like, "Oh, dude, we passed you, right? The Say Report totally passed Board with Friends in the dust, right? We just released
man.
our 32nd episode. We're doing our 33rd. And Zach's response to that, this is the person who's like, "You guys are being mean to me, stop it." His response was, "That's how you need to start the next episode. Is that the show that has passed Board with Friends for the amount of episodes, the Say Report."
There we are.
So here we are, we live in that world. But the Say Report, I mean, in their defense, they release monthly, we release weekly, which is probably why they have time to like edit and things like that. Like, I'm not editing anything. Like,
We
I'm
never
not.
do. We never do.
It's not worth it, right? I want to release the content to you guys when you do it, and we'd like to hear from you. So, Zach, congratulations on 32 episodes of Board with Friends, and I look forward to our, let's say 66th episode when we lap you.
Yeah, man. Well, we'll see you around on the other side.
Looking forward to seeing your backside in front of us again, buddy.
Woohoo.
Woohoo. All right. Well, anyway, this has been the Say Report. I am Devin Decker, and if you'd like to yell at me about anything or convince me why Airheads actually does have a plot line about the format changing of a radio station, you feel free to reach me at Devin D. Decker on Twitter.
And you can get me at Siege versus the World. I'm back, baby. Woo.
He's back, baby! And if you just want to yell at the show in general, we're at the Say Report. So without further ado, William, please take us home, our Deacon Blues brother.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Sejohn Selwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.